Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on the East Coast. My name is Tina Halfpenny. I'm the Executive Director of the DLC. I'm going to kick things off here. Maybe I'm going to kick things off here. Do I have mouse control?
Try again.
Yay, we have an agenda. All right. Today, we would like to present to you. First, we'll introduce ourselves. I'll walk through webinar logistics, just how this webinar is going to work. We're going to give an overview of Luna, the program, the technical requirements, which were finalized in December, and we will open things up for a Q&A at the end of the session. A little bit about us, the Designations Consortium. We are a nonprofit organization. I am here live in Medford, the siren capital of the world. Our mission here at the DLC is to achieve energy optimization by enabling controllability with a focus on quality, people, and the environment. And hopefully you will see our mission embodied in what it is that we're presenting today through our Luna program and technical requirements. Here we are, here's the team. Levin Nock will be presenting as well as Leora Radetzky, Casey Holland, and Stuart Brzezinski and Adrian Martin will be helping us with Q&A. All right, a little bit about the logistics. This is a go-to webinar. As everything has been in the last 2 years, we are online, lots of background noise, so everyone's muted. Any questions that you have will be monitored by Adrian and Stuart, so please use the chat pane. And we will answer them live or come to them at the end of the session when we get into Q&A. And the sessions will be, the questions will be answered as though they are anonymous. So please, this webinar is to help build understanding and awareness of what it is that we're trying to do with Luna. So fire your questions away. All right, the technical requirements and any information on our Luna program for that matter can be found on our website. The requirements in particular are found on under the R work for Luna requirements. So this is where you will find the technical requirements in the technical requirements table. Similarly, this webinar will be recorded and will also be available on our website under news and events, and then down here we've got on-demand webinars. So this will be uploaded as quickly as today if you feel like you've missed anything or want to share with your friends and family. All right, a little background on what this is for those of you who haven't been on this journey with us for the past 15 months. We started out with some initial goals, and we kept them simple. 1, minimize lighting energy use. That's exactly what we're doing at the DLC every day and have been doing for over a decade. What we're trying to do with Luna is establish our baseline efficacy thresholds that we have with our SSL requirements 5.1. We're combining those with dimming and control requirements to ensure efficient use of lighting energy. Wasted light is wasted energy. This will help efficiency programs, our members, meet their savings goals, end users reduce their operating costs. Ultimately, all lighting should be controlled and connected to meet the varied needs of citizens. However, what Luna does is offer an option for customers who are concerned and interested in mitigating light pollution. Second, minimize light pollution. The DLC is squarely in commercial lighting. Knowing that light pollution is a growing problem is something that concerns us, and we wanted to do something about it. So these requirements will decrease light scattered into the atmosphere so that light trespass and sky glow are reduced, ideally resulting in darker skies, better controlled illumination. And finally, we are still invested in providing appropriate visibility for people. That's a big reason why there is outdoor lighting, right? Our 5.1 requirements, again, for spectral quality, reporting of bug ratings, spectral power distribution, intensity distribution. These allow specifiers to choose the right light for the right application. And you'll find in our technical requirements and on our website, we speak to the 5 principles of lighting design that were developed by the IES and IDA. It's very important to consider the objectives of your lighting project. Okay. I guess if I could describe our focus areas, we looked at energy, equity, and the environment. Energy, again, is core to what we do. We have a climate problem. We are concerned about that. Reducing energy use is a major solution to help us tackle our climate crises that we're in. However, equity is also something that needs to be considered and addressed in outdoor lighting design. So things like light trespass, glare. This is an example of a photo that came from RPI, from the LRC. Light trespass is when unwanted light goes into areas where, obviously this lamppost is not there to light up these people's apartment. And that is what we call light trespass. In many cases, when it comes to housing in particular, people don't have a choice or a say in the lighting that is surrounding their house and ultimately affecting their living conditions. Here's another example of an apartment building that I found where, clearly those folks are subject to outdoor lighting, and there is nothing that they can do about that unless they have really good blackout curtains. And then finally, we had a webinar. Lauren Dandridge Gaines facilitated or moderated a webinar for us on equity and outdoor lighting back in December. That webinar can also be found on our website. But this story about New York's public housing and the omnipresence of lighting was a big topic at that webinar. And this is another example of lighting over here and lighting over here going into spaces that it's not where outdoor lighting is meant to be. In addition, there is sort of an element of the quality of light that needs to be considered and often is not when you're talking about lighting public spaces. One quote here that we have discussed many times at the DLC, researchers predict that at the current rate of increasing light pollution by 2025, no dark skies will remain in the continental United States. The 2 main culprits are light and air pollution. My husband had to travel for work yesterday and came from the West Coast, and he flew on a red eye, and he texted me mid-flight and said, I'm really happy that the DLC is doing Luna, because as I fly over the country, there's an awful lot of lights on in the middle of the night. So something to think about for all of us. This is a video I'm going to share. I'm curious if anyone can tell me what is going on here. This is a Doppler video. Oh, actually, it says it up there. So here we see birds migrating. That is actually Florida. I think those are the Florida Keys, to be specific. That happened. That was caught on Doppler radar, weather radar, 2 years ago. About this time, we're heading into migration season for birds as well. So transitioning to environmental impacts of outdoor light at night, they are pretty significant. The research around environmental impacts of light at night is growing, while we do need much more precise information to create, or I should say, much more information to develop precise solutions for some of the negative impacts that are happening. We also know that things like sky glow can be mitigated now. So the blue in this Doppler radar image is actually the precipitation coming across, and this is kind of a fun thing that the weather folks found. The green, and then there's a little bit of yellow in that video, show hundreds of thousands of birds migrating. They are migrating, with a little bit of rain, and that great migration starts about midnight. So on the left-hand side here is a satellite image from NASA Earth. This is also of Florida. This is essentially just illustrating what those birds, those hundreds of thousands of birds, are entering into in terms of outdoor lighting at night. The dark space here, which I think is a pretty tremendous contrast to the light. This is Miami, and this is like Naples area. Those are the Everglades. So birds need to, they need the darkness to be able to navigate. They need to be able to see the stars or the moon. They also need to be able to see where they're going. I think we're all sort of familiar with bird collisions and some of the damage that can be done when birds fall off course. So that's a little bit of the background on Luna and why the DLC opted to take this on. I do want to take a moment to thank, we had an advisory group of lighting experts help us through the development of this. We also had many representatives from industry, many manufacturers, NEMA, who provided us a lot of really excellent feedback. So I know many of you are on the call today, and I want to thank you for your feedback on this project. And finally, this is our home. This is Boston. So I'm going to hand things over, and we can hear from the team on the Luna specifics around distribution, spectral quality, and controllability. So Levin, if you are ready, I am passing the mic.
Thanks, Tina. Now let's see if I can. There we go.
Hey.
Okay, so for the timeline, we released the second draft of the technical requirements in September and the final version in December, with changes based on comments received. And thank you to everyone here who submitted comments, and you helped us to refine the document and make it much more useful for everyone. We are currently setting up the application process to start accepting applications for Luna qualified products in March. The technical requirements are organized as shown here. To attain DLC Luna qualification, products must meet the solid-state lighting version 5.1 technical requirements, and then meet some additional new requirements for Luna based on currently available standards and consensus-based metrics. The main topics are grouped into light distribution, spectral quality, and controllability. In addition, Luna includes a few allowances so that some shielded products and bollards can qualify. And the final section has details about the LM79-19 report on optical and electrical measurements. In the Luna document, Table 3 summarizes the SSL version 5.1 requirements for outdoor luminaires, along with a column describing each area where Luna adds new requirements to the 5.1 baseline requirements. Here's a shortened version of Table 3. As you can see, the main modifications are in light distribution, efficacy allowances, spectral quality, and controllability. Briefly, for distribution, Luna sets thresholds for the U uplight rating. It also requires that a shield option or accessory is available, sets a maximum tilt angle of 10 degrees to limit uplight, and will publish spatial intensity distribution images for each Luna product on the DLC Qualified Products List website, or QPL. Efficacy allowances are available for shielded luminaires and bollards that fall below the solid-state lighting 5.1 standard efficacy thresholds. Spectral quality sets 3000 Kelvin as the maximum CCT and will publish spectral power distribution images and data on the DLC website. Controllability requires continuous dimming down to 20% of maximum power and adds some reporting standards for dimming and communication. We'll address each of those topics next in more detail. For lumen maintenance, electrical performance, and warranty, the same requirements for SSL version 5.1 apply unchanged to Luna. Before we get into the detailed topics, in terms of general changes made to the final version, we updated some of the references and guidance in the foreword to help clarify the scope of this particular document, and also to help people find other documents from other organizations that address important aspects of dark skies that are beyond our scope. This table shows the types of luminaires that will be eligible for Luna qualification. The DLC term for this is primary use designation, such as pole-mounted area and roadway, wall mounts, bollards, etc. And here's a graphical way to think about what's included in Luna. These graphics are in the foreword. What's included is on the left. On the right is what's not included, at least for the first year's release. As you can see, all of the products on the right have legitimate uses in outdoor lighting, even though they are not covered by Luna. We excluded them for two main reasons. First, floodlights, replacement lamps, and retrofit kits all depend critically on the design of each particular project. There's no way that a list of products such as the DLC Qualified Products List can distinguish between good project design that minimizes light pollution versus a bad project design that makes light pollution worse, because we only deal in products, not projects. The second reason that applies to parking garage lights, stairwells, and tunnels is that the structure will block any uplight. Plus, in these structures, uplight is sometimes beneficial to light the ceiling. Non-white light has been a major topic of discussion this year during Luna development, mainly because amber light is important for outdoor applications in sensitive areas such as near coastal turtle nesting grounds and near observatories. This first release of the Luna technical requirements does not include any non-white light sources because non-white light is mostly undefined by ANSI and other standard development organizations. In order to get a better handle on the situation and to see how to move forward, the DLC sponsored research and stakeholder outreach by Tony Esposito of Lighting Research Solutions. He evaluated product nomenclature, designations by various standard development organizations and municipalities, and product performance. And we plan to publish soon a white paper with the results of that. And now, Leora Radetsky will tell us more about the topic of light distribution.
Thanks, Levin. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to speak with you this afternoon. I'm going to be spending some time talking about our final version 1 technical requirements for distribution, as well as testing and reporting requirements for those seeking Luna-specific efficacy allowances. Uplight emitted directly from outdoor luminaires is mostly unused, leading to wasted energy and increasing sky glow. To limit uplight, we are using the U rating metric in the bug rating system to set maximum limits on uplight emitted directly from listed luminaires. As Levin mentioned, aimable luminaires are not eligible for Luna version 1. However, we are allowing certain area and roadway PUDs to include mounting options or accessories that allow up to a 10-degree tilt in order to align the luminaire parallel with a roadway surface. Auxiliary shielding may improve the quality of the light distribution by preventing light trespass where it is not wanted. Tina showed some examples earlier. To support auxiliary shielding, we are introducing efficacy allowances for shielded luminaires meeting specific threshold criteria. Next slide, please. We have made a few changes in the final version in response to stakeholder comments to key questions in draft 2, as well as to general comments. I'm going to review those at a high level now. First, we've reduced the U rating for specialty hazard wall-mounted luminaires from a U2 to a U1. We are also allowing pole and arm-mounted PUDs to be listed with mounting accessories in addition to mounting options, as long as the technical criteria are met. We've clarified some distribution testing and reporting requirements that were confusing to commenters. For example, we've clarified that the worst case performance affecting mounting structures are those that interact with a luminous intensity distribution. We've clarified that the tested luminaire housing color and mounting color can be any available color of the manufacturer's choice. And we've clarified that the tested product image included in the PDF distribution report will not be published on the QPL. Next slide, please. Thanks, Levin. The first requirement for Luna-eligible luminaires is a threshold requirement for the U rating. This is a simplified version of Table 4 from the Luna technical requirements. Depending on the PUD, the maximum allowable U rating is either a U1 or a U2, and lower U ratings are allowed. IES files, otherwise known as photometric files, must be submitted for a representative product for each unique distribution pattern included in the application. TM33 reporting is optional in Luna version 1, but we do intend to require TM33 reporting in a future release. As in version 5.1, bug ratings will be shown for parent and child products. An image of the luminous intensity distribution for each tested product will be shown on the QPL, and this image will be created from tested data. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is Table 5 from the technical requirements, and it shows the maximum allowable U rating for eligible Luna PUDs. Generally speaking, pole and arm-mounted luminaires, as well as bollards and full cutoff wall packs, have a maximum U rating of U1. Decorative luminaires, as well as canopy lighting and hazardous wall packs, have a maximum U rating of U2. Oh, sorry, a maximum U rating of U1 for hazardous wall packs, sorry. Next slide, please. As previously mentioned, aimable products are not eligible for Luna. However, to allow pole or arm-mounted products to be installed with their optics parallel to the pavement, we are allowing mounting options or accessories that do not exceed a tilt angle of more than 10 degrees. The listed model number will include the conforming mounting option or accessory, and we do provide more information on how this will be shown on the QPL in the technical requirements. The submitted documentation must also show the image and tilt information of the allowable mounting option or accessory. Next slide, please. Luna qualified products must offer at least one shielding option or accessory on their specification sheet or supplemental documentation, such as a house side shield, a cul-de-sac shield, a front side shield, or a glare shield. As long as a shield is offered as an option or accessory on the specification sheet or supplemental documentation, qualified Luna products without shielding will be listed on the QPL. We know that applying shields results in lower luminaire efficacies, and in many cases, shielded products cannot meet our minimum efficacy requirements. To encourage shielded products to be listed on the QPL, we are offering efficacy allowances for manufacturers who voluntarily wish to list their shielded Luna products. More information on the voluntary listing requirements is available in the technical requirements, as well as in the Luna technical requirements tables, and I'll be speaking more about those next. Next slide, please. So let's review the efficacy allowances offered in Luna version 1. Next slide. I do want to take a few seconds to note that we made some minor changes to the allowances section in the final technical requirements. Notably, we clarified that shielded products must meet the version 5.1 zonal lumen distribution requirements just as unshielded products do. These ZLD requirements are also in the Luna technical requirements tables, so check that out. Next slide, please. Okay, this table is a simplified version of Table 11 from the technical requirements. We are offering efficacy allowances specific to each shield type subgroup, where a shield type subgroup has worst case efficacy parents and worst case distribution parents in order to minimize the testing required. To qualify for the efficacy allowance, there is a minimum reduction in either the house side or street side lumens compared to an unshielded product with the same distribution. The thresholds are specific to the shield type subgroup. So for example, the house side shield efficacy allowance requires that luminaires with a house side shield have to reduce the house side lumens by at least 50% compared to an unshielded product with the same absolute distribution in order to get an efficacy allowance of 20%. These allowances are cumulative to other spectral quality allowances provided in version 5.1. So for Luna, the total efficacy allowance may be up to 45%, depending on the shield type subgroup. Next slide, please. Luna version 1 also offers a 25% efficacy allowance for bollard PUDs that meet all the Luna technical requirements for distribution, spectrum, and controllability. That does it for the distribution and allowances portion of the technical requirements. Please feel free to ask questions in the question pane. I've seen some already, and I'm going to do my best to answer them during this webinar or shortly thereafter. Now I'll pass it on to Casey Holland to review the spectral requirements and additional reporting guidelines.
All right, thank you, Leora. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, 11. All right, so if you guys have been in tune with the Luna spec development since we began, this might look a little bit familiar to you, but we have the same rationale where we're trying to minimize light pollution and energy use while maintaining appropriate visibility for people. So the first part of this is starting with white light in our SSL version 5.1 requirements, and seeing what else we can do to help mitigate sky glow, specifically from a spectral perspective caused by outdoor LED lighting at night. And let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right, so again, if you've been in the tune with us, a lot of what you're going to see today is going to look similar to what you saw in draft 2 from the spectral section. We do maintain the same eligible CCT range. There are some slight changes in information around SPDX reporting and the data that's going to go onto the QPL related to that. No new information came out from any feedback with respect to impact of spectra or impact on sky glow related to spectra, so no changes with any of the technical requirements or thresholds specific to that in the final policy. And as Levin described earlier, there's a white paper on non-white LED lighting, including amber, coming out shortly. So stay in tune for that. And let's go ahead and take a peek at the Luna requirements. So if you're familiar with version 5.1, a lot of the Luna requirements for spectral quality are the same. On this slide, we're actually highlighting the two main differences, which are that chromaticity is no longer, for Luna specifically, is not an option to list outside of 3000K. It's got to be between 2200K and 3000K, as we're relying on the ANSI 78377 2017 standard, which defines white light, and still need more research and time to consider anything outside of white light beyond version 1 scope. Also, as you can see here in the second column, or sorry, second row, we're requiring TM27 reporting, either TM2720 or 14 version. And we have some additional reporting options that help support TM33, as Leah pointed out. But otherwise, the requirements are very similar. And the change here is that the DLC will be creating an image from the spectral file and also sharing the SPDX file directly on the QPL for tested products. The images will be for parent and child products for the same spectral kind of grouping within a family. As Leora had pointed out for this, there's a lot more details around this in the technical requirement document itself, so make sure you're reviewing that and feel free to reach out at any point if you have any questions. We can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Thank you, Levin. So 2 other requirements that aren't specifically called out, since they're the same as version 5.1, are the color rendition and color maintenance requirements. So in version 5.1, we have 2 options to meet color rendition requirements, either through the NCIS TM30 thresholds or through the CIE 13.3 thresholds. Both options are good for qualification, but you do have to report both sets of values independent of which option you're actually qualifying against. Same for color maintenance. We can evaluate this either at the Luminaire level through LM84 testing or through LED component level through the LM80 testing, and are just looking to confirm the chromaticity shift is less than 0.007 between the 1,000 and 6,000 hour measurements. So this is the same as version 5.1. So can move on to the next slide. So to reiterate, very simple section here. The limit CCT range as compared to version 5.1 is what we've done for the Luna requirements. So no longer up to 6,500K, but 2,200K to 3,000K, whether you are tunable or static spectrum. If you go outside of that range, it can't be on the Luna requirements, or it can't be on the Luna listing. You can still list it during or using our SSL version 5.1 pathway for normal outdoor luminaires that are not looking to have the Luna designation. The Luna requirements introduce the SPDX file and PNG spectral image reporting, which is going to go on the QPL. Since the SPDX file is going to be on the QPL directly and it's coming from your submitted materials, make sure that you don't have any proprietary information inside of the file whenever you're submitting it. And otherwise, it should be pretty useful. And I'm actually very excited about that one because we get a whole lot of input on people in different areas having different interests in the spectral data itself, looking at different ranges and evaluating based on fluxes in those ranges and having their own particular thresholds. And as there are no current industry consensus standards and thresholds in place to actually support limiting sky glow from a spectral perspective and on a Luminaire level for all applications, we have limited it by CCT. So I hope that answers one of the questions that I already saw in the chat. And then again, to call out, it does maintain the color rendition and color maintenance requirements from version 5.1. And next slide, Levin. Yeah, so that wrapped it up for the spectral requirements, and I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about a section toward the bottom of the Luna technical requirement document that describes some additional reporting guidelines, specifically for spectral and spatial distribution reporting. So with Luna version 1, we do allow all the same test methods as with version 5.1, but we're encouraging the use of the latest methods. So we do still accept an LM7908 report, but if you can work with the test lab that's already moved up to the latest test methods, that would be really encouraged by us. We're working on, we weren't working on it, but we have included specific information around elements in your SPDX files or IES files or TM33 documents that are all included or required to be reported as part of your submission. As Theora and I have already pointed out, TM33 is not required with Luna version 1, but we do intend to require it in a future version and are encouraging it to help future-proof your listings without having to get new materials in a future version. Also, some details on how these images will be created from your IES, SPDX, and TM33 documents will be available in the coming weeks. We are planning a pre-submission tool through the MyDLC portal to help validate your files and create the images that you'll be using to submit, and that will be showing up on the QPL. So stay tuned for that. I'm pretty excited about it, and I think you're going to like it. And I think that's the last of my slides, so I'll hand it back over to Levin here to talk about controllability. Thank you all.
Okay, thanks, Casey. So, Luna requirements for dimmability and controllability will minimize sky glow and light trespass flexibly throughout the night by dimming down as far as feasible, as frequently as feasible. Another goal is to save some electricity by dimming, especially in the middle of the night when traffic volumes are low. And third, we want to recognize cost-effective ways to accomplish the first two goals that might not have comprehensive network capabilities, such as individual addressability or remote diagnostics. But these are the three driving reasons for the new requirements for controllability and for dimmability. So there we go. So to meet those goals, Luna qualified products will need to document their capability for control with two new requirements in the first two rows of this table and two additional reported fields in the bottom two rows. For dimming capability in the first row, all luminaires must be capable of continuous dimming down to 20% of full output power. In terms of how they're controlled, the DLC solid-state lighting list already provides some information about controllability. We have added and revised some questions to gather more detailed data to help people know more precisely how exactly a luminaire can be controlled in order to dim down, especially in the middle of the night, but sometimes that's also possible throughout the night. Every Luna qualified product must identify its dimming standard protocol between the driver and sensor controller. Also, while Luna includes some hazardous primary use designation, these are exempted from controllability requirements since dimming is rarely desirable or available in a hazardous application. So since draft 2, the main update is in filling in the acceptable terminology tables of the controls tables to indicate exactly what words the reviewers will be looking for on spec sheets. And also, we've clarified the process that this updating this acceptable terminology will be an ongoing process, whereas new reviews come in and we learn of new ways to describe a particular protocol or a particular thing, then we will be posting updates on the website and in the latest version of the technical requirements. So when you're filling out an application, please be sure to download a recent copy of the technical requirements or refer to the one online because that will have the most up-to-date information. So in terms of Table 7 has the main, those main 4 criterion that I mentioned. In terms of the details about the dimming standard protocol between the driver and the sensor controller, this slide shows exactly what we're looking for in terms of if it's an analog wired dimming protocol, does it follow one of these particular standards? And if it's wired and digital, does it follow one of these particular standards? And if not, it falls under other with a text field that will be, you can describe exactly what it is that's not one of those standards. In terms of Table 8, that describes the integral control capabilities and receptacles recognized by Luna. This is in addition to several integral control capabilities that are already in version 5.1 that's not shown here. But anyway, these are the main additions. Part night dim is one, as I mentioned, to save energy and to promote the dark sky in the middle of the night when there's relatively low traffic, and also a photo control with self-calibrating astronomic time clock. so that that is another way to achieve the same idea of dimming to various amounts at various times of the night. And also low-end trim for vacancy mode is also an important way to limit light trespass and light pollution. And then also we want to be more precise about recognizing the integral control receptacles, and we've added Zaga Book 18, as well as calling out in particular the 5-pin and the 7-pin NEMA ANSI 136 receptacles. And then also, if there is another interoperable socket receptacle that that can meet those all of those requirements down in the bottom right hand corner, then that would be you could submit that as an other kind of receptacle that's slightly different from those 3 standards. And table 9, describing the communication protocol, we've got a copy of table 7 on the left with those 4 main rows, and then that bottom row expands into table 9, which is shown on the right, which lists the various wired protocols and wireless protocols where different devices can talk to each other, can communicate with each other, either wired or wirelessly. And so we will, as more products are qualified, we will have a more complete information that should help people to integrate luminaires, at least provide some guidance to help integrate luminaires into control systems so that they can actually be controlled. And now we will go to the question and answer session with Stuart and Adrian.
Hello, thank you for all of your questions. We have been monitoring them in the questions pane. And if you have any more questions that you've been holding on to, please don't hesitate to continue to ask them as we go through this. And now we're going to answer some of them live. So I might need a second to read through some of these. I'll start with one for Casey. Are there any plans to use SPD to set thresholds for spectral quality instead of CCT?
There are no concrete plans to use the actual SPD to evaluate particular fluxes within any particular ranges and their impact on SkyGlow in terms of replacing CT. But if an industry standard did emerge that has industry consensus and let's say like an IES standard or something that has different recommendations than what we're currently proposing, we are open to changing our requirements should the standards actually support them.
Thank you. Okay, my next question is for Levin. Will the logo be utilized as another DLC logo?
Thanks for that question. I would like to hand that off to Tina. Tina, are you there? Or maybe we could.
Yes, we do have another logo. We've sort of slipped it in as a kind of a where's the logo game. I don't know if we could flash back to one of the slides, but that logo is in the requirements document, and we will be sharing logo guidelines very soon.
Thank you. Okay, I will continue with a question for Levin. Will a link to this webinar's recording be provided to all participants?
It will be available on the website, and I'm not sure whether there'll be a follow-up email or not, but there will definitely be available on the website under the events.
Okay, thank you. All right, give me a sec. Okay. I will go with a question for Tina. Many electrical contractors and lighting distributors will continue to sell and install $99 5000K bargain specials. what can and will the DLC do to prevent this?
Well, I did answer that publicly. I think that there are an awful lot of players in the market who can all think about outdoor lighting through the lens of, no pun intended, light pollution. However, with that said, we designed Luna specifically so that it could be nested under our SSL 5.1 requirements. So our members in utility programs, efficiency programs who offer incentive programs for lighting can also use Luna.
Great, thank you. Okay, I have a question for Leora. Luna's requirement is for supplemental shielding to reduce the amount of total backlight to a minimum of 50%. Is there any requirement for where the backlight goes, for example, as a function of mounting height?
Hi, thanks, Adrienne. This is an excellent question. Simply put, the requirement is just for a reduction in house side lumens relative to an unshielded product of the same absolute distribution. There is no mounting height requirement. When we first developed our allowances, we did look at various metrics. We looked at using, for example, the B ratings and other criteria, and we found, as we looked at rated data and product data, that this was really the easiest way for us to offer this efficacy allowance, and it was the most consistent way. But thanks for the excellent question.
Yes, and there is a related question to that. Many current shields are designed to eliminate almost all backlight. However, the resulting shielding Luminaire efficacy is extremely low and would not meet Luna. Is there anything we have done to address this? This may have been addressed in the slides already.
Yes, that's another really good question. With Luna, as Tina mentioned, we are balancing energy savings and energy efficiency, as well as light pollution and light trespass mitigation. So in this case, in order to still have high efficacy shielded products, there is only this 20% efficacy allowance and not a larger one. The only case where there's a larger one is for cul-de-sac products, and I believe that efficacy allowance is 35%, but that's a fair point.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to a question for Tina again. What are the differences between Luna and IDA besides the additional shielding requirements?
There's a couple of questions on that. So I'm happy to say that we have been working with IDA for, the past year on what it is that we're trying to do with Luna. They participated with us on the advisory group that we had. I would say in intent, we're very much aligned. Our specifications are different. The most significant is the efficacy, which is core. I've said this a few times, which is core to the DLC. And then there are some other differences. The DLC has safety requirements, there's warranty requirements, there are additional requirements, and probably more minor differences in the metric thresholds, largely because of the way that we designed Luna to fall under our 5.1. Is that me? Can you hear that?
Gone now.
All right. Thank you, Tina. Okay, let's see. If you have any more questions that you're holding on to, please continue to ask as we go through this. Let's see. I will ask one for Leora again. Why don't you include non-white sources like amber?
Well, I think Casey touched on this a little bit, but simply put, we rely on standards in order to set requirements that labs across the world can meet and be accredited to. And there simply isn't a standard below 2200K from any standard development organization. So we are planning on publishing a public-facing white paper based on work that was done for us by Tony Esposito that will educate our stakeholders and readers about this. But we would like standards development organizations to develop, ranges, chromaticity coordinates for these types of products, criteria for these types of products, so that we can consider them in the future.
Thank you. I'm sorry to keep picking on you, but I do have another question for Leora. Most urban or globe type fixtures exceed the U2 rating for decorative. Are these given an additional allowance since urban globe luminaires include an uplight component inherent to the design of the product?
Another excellent question. Simply put, we do not have an additional tolerance to our U rating thresholds at all. So for decorative PUDs, the zonal lumen requirements are based on a U2, and any product that can meet a U2 or lower that is decorative can be listed with a Luna designation on the QPL. Products that have a U3 or higher designation can still be listed on the version 5.1 QPL.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, let's see. Bear with me. Okay. Okay. How about?
Hey, Adrian.
Hello.
Hi, it's Tina. In the question pane, I saw quite a few questions around the fee schedule.
Okay.
So the fee schedule is in the technical requirements, and is there any way that we can send that link out to everyone?
I believe so. You could send it out in the chat.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Any more around fees, or shall I continue?
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, here's one. I think this one goes to Levin. Wouldn't the Luna list / QPL make it much easier for cities and towns to immediately verify that their outdoor lighting projects are mitigating light pollution?
Well, yes, it does make that much easier, because as for all of the products that are Luna qualified, they do not need to do as strong of a project review. I mean, for the non-Luna qualified products, they will need to do a careful review of each project design to confirm that the overall metrics for light trespass and sky glow are acceptable. And that process should be much easier and shorter when it's just Luna qualified products, or for the portion of a project that is Luna qualified.
Awesome, thank you. I think we are at about time, so I will pass it back to Levin for closing statements. And if we didn't get to your question, we will follow up with you after the webinar. So thank you, Levin.
Thanks, Adrian. I was just looking online to see if I could find the policy to the fee schedule real quick, but I didn't find it. Anyway, so I'm not going to show that. Yes, well, thank you very much for attending this webinar, and I hope that everyone will consider promoting this idea, promoting the general idea of more dark skies and limiting light trespass, limiting sky glow. It is a problem that we can actually solve. It's been created as an it's been created largely by the commercial and residential lighting industries, and it is solvable. So thank you very much for attending the webinar, and have a great day.